Welcome to the AVAIL podcast, where we dig deep and talk about the art of leadership. My name is Virgil Sierra, your AVAIL podcast host and lead pastor of Vertical Church, aka Iglesia Vertical in South Florida. In this episode, we're sitting down once again with a good friend, Brent McCorkle. Brent is a professional in the film industry. He's a writer, director, composer, and a lot more. And today we're going to discuss his new movie, I Can Only Imagine 2. So lean in, leaders, and let's get started. Brent, it's great having you on the AVAIL podcast again. How you doing, my friend?
It's great to be with you again, man. Thanks for having me out, dude. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I love it. I love having interviews with you because the nerd in me just loves creatives. I'm a creative. You're a creative. I'm a pastor's kid. You're a pastor's kid. There's a lot that we share from our kind of our upbringing. Where we differ is that you are an incredibly experienced and successful in the film industry, which is awesome. And we've been able to talk a little bit about this in the past. I would love for our AVAIL audience who maybe didn't listen to that a few years ago and doesn't know you, share a little bit about who you are, where you are, what you're doing, and then we'll jump into the new project.
Yeah, man. Thank you. It's so great. It's so cool you said like experience, because I really think that's really only the difference. I think everybody is inherently creative. Every human being is inherently creative.
Yeah.
And then if you decide, some of us have a little bit more of those gears than others, so I couldn't get out of it. I was like a typical lost adrift artist. I didn't even know it. I switched majors 5 times before I decided to take some film classes and go for it,
Wow.
So but yeah, I'm a pastor's kid. I grew up in the church, and the older that I get, the more I really appreciate even the tradition that I was raised in. And I always tell people it's for like these 2 things. Well, actually 3, but one is the arts were encouraged. Like if you had any kind of talent or gifts, like, well, use it in the church.
Yeah.
And I had so many opportunities, like play piano and make a lot of mistakes, and like sing a lot of wrong notes, but it is amazing. Someone pointed out to me one time that like so many of the talent, like on America's Got Talent or American Idol, a lot of those people are raised in the church, and you just get hundreds and thousands of hours of practice. And those abilities that you have, or those gifts that kind of are raw or like uncut gems, they get nurtured and like cultivated in that environment. That definitely happened to me. Like I wouldn't be here if I wasn't raised in the church. So I always say that. And then the other 2 things in my tradition, I always say when people were hurting or sad or needed help or their lives were falling apart, in my church, they would ask them to come to the front, and 30 or 40 people would like create this lattice of hands and just lay hands on these people. And the connection that you see and the outpouring of love you see going into these really hard like moments of suffering in people's life, it changed me. It moved me. And if you watch my movies, there's always these people putting hands, like, touching someone's shoulder or giving them a hug or whatever. It's just like that connection. And I saw that taught to me in church. And then the other thing I got taught is that God is never far away. God is actually with you. God is in your heart, So like a lot of people feel like God is out there somewhere and
Right.
doesn't care. And like, so I was taught that God is like closer than your heartbeat. And I think those 3 things really formed me, and it'll constantly be a version of me and what I'm trying to do in the world. So teaching people or trying to show people that God is in you, God is with you. You're never alone. Even when you feel like you are, you're not. I usually, you'll hear, you're never alone in almost all my movies at some point.
That's so good.
And then also the connection, the human connection, like how like God can reach people just from a touch or a look or a hug. Like if we really slow down and try to be the hands and feet, that can make a huge difference on this planet. And then also just always shouting out to my roots, being raised in the church, and they didn't realize that they were nurturing and cultivating an artist, who was very, a lot of artists kind of drift around and kind of blow around and they don't really know, I saw this bumper sticker a few weeks ago and it was hilarious, but it said, "Not all who wander are lost, but I am," so like a lot of artists just drift around. And I think the church gave me some grounding and showed me that I had some potential,
Mm.
and I had the hours to cultivate it and grow it and be encouraged in it. So yeah. And then the other thing that was really cool is my dad pioneered a church from scratch, like with zero people. He left Missouri to start this church from nothing in Texas. And I think the greatest gift that he gave was like he had this crazy, relentless dream. And I remember he pitched it, like he sat like me and my brother and my mom down on the couch and he's like, here's the dream, and, would you guys be willing to do this with me? And we were little kids. But it was just so overwhelming and powerful to see a man like get this crazy risky vision. He
Wow.
left a really a comfy job uh, to do this and start over from zero. And I think it showed me um, that it's okay to take some big risks and chase your dreams and your vision. And so, yeah, so that's kind of where I come from. Pastor's kid, mixed up artist. Eventually got my head screwed on straight, and went to film school, took a bunch of classes, and yeah, I'm originally a musician for sure. I always tell people I'm a musician who happens to make movies for a living. So being raised in the church, worship leader for
Yeah.
decades, and getting to sing and play piano and those kind of things. So yeah, I'm really grateful for my upbringing, my roots, and also just being able to bring all this, I guess, musical literacy, or like, just
Mm.
I am a musician who makes films, so everything I think about, even when I write scripts, it's almost from a musical
Wow.
perspective.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's me.
Yeah, that's good. I like I like what you said because it kind of brings some hope. All the pastors listening, all the leaders listening, you never know who is sitting in those chairs. You never know
Mm,
who's right there
mm,
in front of you that you're getting a chance to pour into, shepherd, disciple,
hmm.
encourage. And you never know where they're going to take that and how the Lord's going to use them in the future. I think you're a great example of that, Brent. Now, I want to talk about I want to go straight to it. You took a big risk a few years ago with I Can Only Imagine. Did you have any idea that I Can Only Imagine would become one of the biggest Christian films in history? Like, what was that journey like for you?
Well, it's beautiful. It really is like the mythical like journey with God, because I actually was saying this the other day. We were coming off of another movie that was actually really good. You guys should watch it, but it didn't do good at box office. It's called Woodlawn.
I
And
saw it, loved it.
Andy and John directed it. And it's a lovely movie. But it didn't perform well. No one was in the mood for a football movie for whatever reason. People,
Sure.
everything goes in cycles, and just no one was in the mood to watch it. But it's an awesome movie.
Yeah.
But what happened was, w the Irwins and that whole team, the marketing team, we spent a lot of money marketing it, and it just didn't do well. And so we were all pretty whipped. I mean, when you put a bunch of time and energy into something that doesn't do well at the box office, it can really defeat you. You can be really depleted.
Yeah.
And it usually leaves you kind of turning back inward and like nursing your wounds and all that stuff. And then
Hmm.
also looking at it, it's like, okay, well, you know, in all fairness to these investors and everybody involved, we should probably take a step back and not spend as much money. And that's what we did, man. We took a step back. Like,
Mm.
I think Woodlawn was shot for 13 million, and we stepped back and shot Imagine for 5 million. And that was it was almost like rebooting again, like
Hmm.
with a smaller beginning, or like rebooting back to something smaller. And
Hmm.
so I think as life kind of handed us that little bit of defeat or that setback, it totally like was loading that slingshot to launch this
Mm.
little engine this little $5 million indie movie, but no one knew it was going to do 80 plus million, like,
Powerful.
it blew up Hollywood. I mean, you generally will never see that. It's like maybe a 5 time in a lifetime type thing, where you have a Napoleon Dynamite or a
Right.
Blair Witch Project, where you have like 80 million over five. Like
Mm.
you're always looking at what it costs to make versus what it made at the box office. And
Right.
so that it made that much money on such a small budget, it was insane. And
Wow.
I don't think anybody saw it coming. I mean, I really don't. I don't think anyone saw it coming. I think we thought it would do good, and we really stood behind the movie, and we were proud of it. We were proud of what it said and like how it felt, and we were really proud of the themes and everything. But at the end of the day, I mean, I'm living this right now. You have to let it go. You have to surrender. You have to surrender the whole thing. And I'll tell off, man, when you direct, and you write, and you've got so much in this. And this has been my life for 2 years. Like I've got a little bit of anxiety this week. Like there's parts of me that want it to do really good because it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I worked so hard on this, but the bigger parts of me, I think the truer parts, the deeper parts, you just have to surrender.
Yeah.
You have to surrender this whole outcome every time that you go out. You have to let it go because you can't control it. So, but yeah, it's wild to be in the opening week, just waking up wondering, how many people are interested in going to see it and how many people will go to see it. But I do hope that people do go to this one.
Mm.
I actually think the second one is even more relatable and more I think more connected in its themes to every human being that
Mm.
watches it because like my dad wasn't abusive, you know, but I was able to connect to the themes of forgiveness, and
Yeah.
not being
Of
able to
course.
let go in the first film. Well, this movie I think goes out wider where everybody's like, "Oh yeah, I've experienced some version of this. What's
Yeah.
going on here?" So I'm excited about like a wider theme that maybe will hopefully reach even more people with the second film.
Yeah, that's good. It's funny because I don't think I need to say this, but I am no movie critic. That's not my position. But man, Woodlawn was a powerful movie as far as I'm concerned. Like I watched that movie and I was highly blessed by it. I think you're right. I think sometimes what's the world like looking for right now? But I will say
Yeah.
to anybody who has not seen Woodlawn, please watch Woodlawn and watch it with your family. Powerful movie. I can only imagine what a heart heart touching real life painting movie. So well done, amazing acting, and just everything about the movie, from the score, everything is so good. So right now, the sequel, I can only imagine two. That's what you're alluding to as far as the one that's coming. The second one, obviously, depending on the time that somebody's listening to this or watching this, the official release February 20th, correct? February 20th,
That's right.
2026. So some people might be watching this right literally on the day of release, or a few days before, maybe a few days after. What drew you to tell this next chapter of the story? Because not every movie has a sequel, right? But there's something that drew you to say we got to do this.
Yeah, what a great question. For 8 years now, we've been saying "I Can Only Imagine" doesn't need a sequel. We actually fought it because we wanted it. It was such a beautiful success, and it was it really said what we wanted it to say, and we were really down. There were all these ways that people were trying to spin off of it. There was like a TV show talked about for a while. There's all this stuff people are trying to, because when it's that successful, people want to keep replicating it.
Right.
And so I was really down on it. I think Andy was really averse to any kind of sequel. And there was one producer, her name was Cindy Bond. She actually had the original idea for the first movie, I Can Only Imagine. But she started saying, "Hey guys, we should go back and we should do a movie that like a continuation story of some sort about their other big song, Even If." And for to be honest, to our detriment, no one really listened to her, and like would dismiss or whatever. But I'm really good friends with her, and Bart is super good friends with her. And she, like, as a personal favor, called us both one week. Is like, "Listen, I can't let this go. I will let it go, but but will you two please just sit down and just hash this whole thing out? And if there's nothing there, I will let it go,
Wow.
but please sit down." And as a courtesy to Cindy, Bart and I sat down, and I heard him in an interview last week, but we talked about mostly other stuff because we didn't think there was going to be anything there. So we talked like about other things, and finally, in the last few minutes, I was like, "Hey, you should tell me, just tell me why you wrote Even If." And he started talking, and my jaw fell out of my mouth. I
Wow.
mean, there was another movie there, and so from there, even though Kingdom wasn't interested, Bart and I walked it in and pitched it, and they were like, "Whoa, are you saying all this stuff happened?" We're like, "Yeah," and they got real excited about it. And then we got a pitch ready really fast and we started pitching it. We had a Lionsgate pitch call, and this never happens, but 30 seconds in, they interrupted us and stopped the pitch meeting and said, "Okay, we're doing this movie.
Wow.
You can continue." And then we were just like, "Well," everybody's crying. I mean, it was incredible. So yeah, I really have to give all credit to Cindy Bond. She really held on to this for 7 or 8 years. She actually held on to the first movie for that long. And so some things, some beautiful plants, the seeds stay in the ground for a long time before they sprout, and then they sprout into these beautiful, elegant, incredible trees you possibly couldn't even imagine. So that's kind of what happened with both the movies. They've been a long time coming and germinated for a long time, but yeah, this one was never supposed to happen.
Wow.
And it was really Bart and I doing Cindy a favor, when we sat down. But then there's this luscious, beautiful more story, and it really picks up. It's a continuation of the first movie. It really is a true sequel. I liken it to, I don't know if you saw Karate Kid 1 and Karate Kid 2, but
Hmm.
they kind of flow together. And so yeah, I think for me, I resonate more with the second one even. I
Wow.
think it connects back to the first movie and it keeps making that story get bigger. But I really do think it comes in for a beautiful landing and connects
Mm.
the two films together really in a really beautiful, like surprising way. It's really cool. It's not what you think it's gonna be, it's more. And I'm
Wow.
I'm excited about that.
It's funny hearing about this. I have kind of a curious question, which we don't have to go into, but because I'm thinking about, okay, wait, like I'm thinking about you guys having this meeting, and then thinking
I
there's
love
nothing.
curious questions.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm thinking about you guys having this meeting, talking about all these other things, and like, oh yeah, tell me about this, so that we can tell her we talked about it, and then all of a sudden, like, what? And then my thought is like, okay, wait, if it's a sequel, are we able to get the actors again? Like
Mhm.
are some of them going to be in it too, and will they do it? Like all of the things have to come
Yeah.
together for it to really feel good. Because I can imagine that could be an obstacle too. No.
Yeah, so you might be a producer because that's the first thing. Like, you got to be careful. You got to keep the producers away for a minute because they'll be like, "Well, hold on a minute. If we shoot that in Santa Fe, like the tax bracket out there is 12%." It's like it's like they start like they're not meaning to, but like the energy shoots holes, and it's like you want the children to run off and play on the playground for a minute.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I was really glad there was no producers around. But yeah, then those questions come later, and those are legitimate, and like you have to start shooting holes in it because
yeah,
it's not just a creative endeavor.
yeah.
It's like I think I can't remember who said this, but it's brilliant. But he said it's not show art, it's show business. You have to have the business side of it. You have to have the
Sure.
lattice and the infrastructure and the scaffolding to actually tell this story. So yeah, I'd say Andy tells a funny story where like he threatened to kidnap John Michael Finley against his will to make him do the movie if he said no. So like yeah, I mean, I think if John Michael would have said no, it probably would have gone in the ditch.
It would have been tricky. It would have been tricky.
Yeah, I think we got all the cast back from the original movie, with the exception of like a couple people, and even in those particular cases, it really worked out beautifully. The
Yeah.
film worked out beautifully. But yeah, man, there's all these logistics, and but the logistics also, I will say, can work in your favor, and this is oftentimes what producers don't see at times because I think a producer's job is to like identify every little gremlin around the corner that can wreck your movie. Like every
Yeah.
little thing that could derail you. You're scanning for almost like I don't want to say in a fearful way, but you're scanning in a very cautious
Yeah.
way to
Yeah.
look at all the pitfalls that could make this thing not work.
Yeah.
But in the midst of all that, there's a ton of stuff that's working, and you should just stop and like get some gratitude, man. So, for instance, in this hiatus, John Michael Finley had a kid, and he became a dad.
Yeah.
And this second movie is about Bart in fatherhood, trying to become the best dad to his son that he
Come
can
on.
without really having a great role model. So John Michael comes in just with a different countenance, like he's in a different place in his life because
Yeah.
he's a
Yeah.
dad now. So Milo Ventimiglia had his first kid in pre-production. So he goes into this thing as a new father. And man, I don't know. There's just you get all those really cool like God sparks and God moments, and you realize that you kind of pass that mile marker, and you're like,
Yeah.
whoa, thank you. Like we're worried about everything that's going to burn this thing down, and you're also sending us some manna, so thank you. So yeah, there was a lot of you definitely at some point have to stop like living in that dream world, but the dream world is where all the creative happens, and you do want to be in the dream world, but then you have
Yeah.
to bring it back to the real world. And so I'm very grateful. I think to your larger point, yeah, if a big actor in this would have said no, it probably would have
Yeah.
derailed it.
Yeah. I'm kind of hearing that there are two questions. They're both valid, but
Mm,
you can't not ask one. So obviously, those people that are in charge are thinking what can go wrong, but then you also have to
yep,
ask what could go right, what could go right,
exactly.
and what could surprise us, which is kind of what you're sharing. I love that. So I want to mention this, Brent, because you're in the middle of all this. Faith-based films have
Mm,
really taken a shift in recent years,
hmm
and for example, like what we're talking about, experiencing great success in the box office. You work as part of Kingdom Story Company, which has become a premier destination for making films that ignite this hope and this faith. Why do you
hmm
believe, Brent, that these films resonate so deeply with viewers?
Yeah, I think there's a number of reasons for that. One, there's a few things that Kingdom does that I really appreciate. They generally, every once in a while, they'll make an exception, but 98% of the time, they're telling real life stories,
Hmm.
authentic real life stories, real human beings that this stuff really happened to. And I think that in of itself, that choice makes everything very relational, very authentic, and very aspirational because it's like, you could tell a fiction story about so and so and try to get a theme across, but it's like, no, this actually happened to a fellow human being. Would you like to hear like some of their journey? So I do love that about Kingdom. And then the other thing that allows me to work for Kingdom that doesn't allow me to work for other people in the space is these guys are just about injecting hope
Yeah.
and life and like inspiration and love and forgiveness, like what I actually believe to be the core tenets of Christianity that a lot of people forget because we're in such a fear rage based culture right
Yeah.
now. And like, man, Christ came to the masses. Man, like he one time he looked at the crowd, and if you look at the Greek, he looked at the crowd and they had so much suffering that it said he was moved with compassion, but if you break the Greek down, he literally felt physical pain in his body, like it
Hmm.
doubled him over in pain because he could feel all that grief and
Right.
all that sadness coming up off the crowd. And I don't know, man. He was out with the people and just trying to love everybody he possibly could. And I think we've really lost sight of his mission, even in the church. And so I think right now it's I like what Andy says. It's almost countercultural right now to be hopeful or be loving or like try to be peaceful because the culture has gone so far the other direction. And so it makes it fun to be it's almost like faith right now, like faith, aspirational faith movies. It's almost kind of punk rock in a way. Like
That's
it's going
funny.
against it's going against the current, which is right now for everybody to be angry with each other, fearful of each other, throwing rocks, hurling stones, really rage based, things even around your own religion, your own spirituality. And so I do love that I'm like I always tell people in the screenings, like I'm trying to give millions of people a hug the best I can, and like through a film, right? I
Hmm.
just want people to feel love coming off that screen, and that I just want them to get the feeling that they're held and they're safe and they're seen and that they're not alone. And that's really countercultural right now. So I love what Kingdom is doing. It's always trying to bring some optimism and some hope. And, and even though it is within the Christian lens, within the Christian paradigm, within the Christian faith, what that ends up doing is it ends up resonating to people from all walks of life. And
Mm.
I'm really all about that. The greatest compliments I get, I love getting compliments like this. Like an atheist friend will watch it and be like, that was beautiful, man. I cried. Or like a
Yeah.
Jewish friend will be like, okay, dude, I'm not a Christian, but that was powerful. I need to think about this,
Yeah.
so for me, I'm more on that side of things.
Can I ask you a
Like I
question,
really want
Brent?
it,
Can I
of
ask you a question on
course.
that? Can I ask you a question
Yeah,
on that?
yeah,
Okay, just
totally.
because I think it's important. Um, because you're in this interesting position, right, with what you're doing, because you potentially what you put out goes to everybody, right? So, what's the most challenging part about making faith films, right? They're Christian films, but with the intention of inspiring both believers and connecting with skeptics of God or Christianity or faith. What do you
Mm-hmm.
find to be kind of the most challenging, or what's the dynamic of that process for you?
Yeah, it's a real straightforward answer for me, and I get a lot of flack for this, but I actually believe faith films are a genre. I think Hollywood makes genre films, and we're defining this new genre of kind of a modern faith-based film. And so I think some people get in there, and I think personally for me, I think they get a little too ingrained in the smaller like Christian theology where it's only going to preach to the choir. And
Right.
so I always tell people, and I know this is offensive, but like it really is true. I always tell people it's like Christians watching closed circuit television and they're pointing at it saying, see, that's what the world needs to watch. But they don't realize they're in a loop that they're only watching. And
Right.
so like if you widen it out a little bit, I think it becomes more universal. I think it becomes more authentic. And it generally doesn't end always with like a pretty bow on it. Like you have to, I think to widen out to a wider audience, you have to be a little bit more truthful and not be as kind of as sanitized in your messaging to
Hmm.
try to get the message across. And so the biggest challenge I have is actually in the definition of the genre, because on the other side of it, there are people who really want to push the genre. Like, and for me, this is where I'm a little bit more Pollyanna. Like, I'm not Pollyanna in the first point I just made.
Yeah.
I'm usually the one who's pushing
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
little too hard to go as wide as we can. But in the second way, I'm very Pollyanna and kind of silly, but like some people like try to put cuss words in, or maybe,
Right.
some slightly suggestive scenes or something that would get it PG-13 or R or whatever, like hyper violent stuff. I am not about that. I think one of the ways that this genre is defined is that it is safe for a parent to take a 5-year-old kid to, and they're like, "Wow, that was awesome. I'm
Right.
so glad that they didn't put anything that would like harm my child or make me have to have a really awkward conversation with them later or whatever." So I actually appreciate that about the genre. So if you want to talk about genre, like a thriller genre, a horror genre, a fantasy genre, kids genre, a sci-fi genre, like how do we define these genres? And I think personally for me, just keeping any content out of this that would not allow like a really sweet intergenerational viewing. Um, and in the case of Jesus Revolution, we had to show some drug use. So if it fits into the scene,
Right.
it fits into the story. I completely understand that,
Yeah.
but you're never gonna find me trying to put weird stuff that
Yeah.
pushes the boundary, like just add cuss words or something to it. So that's where I'm a little like silly,
I like
like a
that.
little like I guess like a little bit like childlike in a way of just like why push the boundary? It's like
Yeah.
you wouldn't do that stuff. You wouldn't put like a gruesome murder into a G kids movie,
Yeah.
right? It
Yeah.
doesn't fit the genre. And so in some ways I really love working in this genre as it's being defined and how I define it for myself. But I really do hope that just like a great Pixar movie, they do such a great job of this because it entertains a 5-year-old. But like when I see it, I see the deeper themes, and
Yeah.
I'll cry, man. Like Coco, like wiped me out. I was just like, that movie wiped me out. Finding Nemo, like Monsters Inc. Like they layer it in strata
Hmm.
where it is a very deep viewing experience for an adult, but it doesn't harm a child with any of the content. So I think you can have a really layered thematic
Yeah.
idea in a film, but not do anything that would upset or disturb these viewers that are real sensitive to content. And I just always want to be
Yeah.
respectful of that. So it's those two things that pull at me. It's like going as wide as I can and not making it too Christianese, or not making it too ratcheted down where it's too small of like even the
Yeah.
thought or the theme. But then also understanding that you are working in this genre box that some filmmakers would really feel boxed in by, but I
Sure.
don't. I think it's really fascinating to
Yeah.
like work around in and explore. It's like a sandbox, and I really think you can build some beautiful sandcastles inside this genre.
Yeah. And I think there's an audience that appreciates that. I really do think there's an audience that appreciates that. I think especially in contrast to pretty much everything else. My position on some of this is sometimes a movie doesn't need curse words. It doesn't need those things. It's just unnecessary. It's almost like, why did they put, like, did they put that in there to please a group that wants it? Um,
Yeah,
and and
it's
you know,
gratuitous at times.
yeah, yeah, and
Hmm.
obviously there's an audience for everything, but personally, like if I want to listen to a comedian with my kids, I have to think, okay, I can't just put any, and sometimes you don't need all of that. You could be really really funny without all that, which I appreciate those as well. So I really appreciate your heart, and I think the reason that you get this world is because of your upbringing and your perspective, your kind of
Hmm.
your worldview. You value something that a lot of people value that maybe Hollywood in general doesn't value, and I think that it brings a certain limitation from the perspective of maybe most creatives, but you're embracing that and leveraging it in a good way, which I think is pretty awesome. We're kind of hitting the final stretch here, Brent. I wanted, before we kind of give some final comments about I Can Only Imagine 2, maybe as you look ahead, right, in and you think of the role of faith-based films, what's the role going to be in shaping culture over the next decade or so? Because this is where you are right now, and probably for some good time. What do you
Hmm.
see ahead in
Hmm.
this?
Yeah, I guess I would say with all the gentleness and loving, peaceful nature in my heart, I think we need a call back to the core things that Christ taught. And um, Christ was a being of love and compassion and empathy and forgiveness and truth. Like I think oftentimes we leave the truth part out, but even the truth that he spoke was loving, and it was meant to burn away falsehoods and religiosity, and really get us back to the truth. So even when he spoke the truth and it was a little hard, it was from a place of love.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think for me, calling all of us back to a groundedness of loving our neighbor as we love ourselves. I mean, Jesus said, "Love your enemies." Who does that? I don't know. I don't know if I've ever met anybody who's faithfully done that. You know what I'm saying? So the gauntlet that he threw down is not what is happening in the world right now.
right.
So I think just this beautiful, gentle, loving call back to these things that Christ taught at the core of his teachings. He said, "A new commandment I give to you, love one another as I have loved you." Like
Hmm.
we're not doing that. So yeah, man, I think for me, continuing to do these movies that hopefully stir the heart, open the heart, like call us back to love, call us back to that good news that God loves you. But again, I think the flip side of that is also I'm learning how to be more loving when it's time to speak some truth, because the truth can burn. The truth can warm, but it can also like burn. And so not being afraid to tell the truth too, but the scripture also talks about telling the truth in love. Like, I mean, you've been on you've probably been on the hard receiving end of some truth that
Yeah,
had a tone that was meant to wound,
yeah,
right? Like, so you can use truth as a sword to like wound someone, or you can use truth from a loving place in you
yeah.
because you truly legitimately want them to grow or see something a different way. And so yeah, those are the places I'm trying to go. I think you'll see faith films continue to kind of bifurcate and go two different directions. One is going to go like kind of go with culture into the rage, more the hate,
Right.
that kind of thing. And then I don't know, man. The stuff I'm going to work on is trying to go the opposite way. I'm trying to pull everybody back this other way and be like, man, no, like, man, like Jesus was so loving. He was accused of like hanging out with all these terrible people, but he didn't care. He just wanted to be where the need was. And then, it's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. It's like he had so much compassion and love that he didn't care about his reputation. And so anyway, that's the kind of stuff I'm trying to do. I think you'll see like tons of different types of faith movies, but I really do hope people will see what we're trying to do and be like, you know what? These guys always do like really heart opening, like
Yeah.
loving, encouraging, uplifting stories. So I know if I take my niece to this, we're going to come away like lifted and with some really cool stuff to talk about. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Love it. I love what you're trying to do, Brent. I love what you and your team. I know you and Andy Irwin, really worked on writing this together. I want to just finish it off because we're kind of on the final stretch. But
Sure.
can you share with our AVAIL audience kind of the different roles that you played in this movie? The movie is I Can Only Imagine 2, debuting officially February 20th, 2026. So whatever you're listening or watching this, make sure you go out and watch I Can Only Imagine 2. As we close off, Brent, what were your roles in the different aspects of what you did on this movie?
Yeah, I got to write it by myself, which was really cool. I got to get a lot of my ideas and thoughts into this thing. I will say though, I'm a pretty sloppy writer, so I had a bunch of help around me at the end to shape it. It's like I think I'm better at digging up a giant, beautiful slab of marble out of the ground, and then everybody kind of helps me uh, hone it in, to my sculpture. But yeah, I got to write this one by myself, and I had a lot of help at the end for sure, like with editing and people speaking into it. I directed it with Andy Irwin. That was a lovely process. I got to do Jesus Revolution with the other brother, John Irwin, so it kind of came full circle for me to like direct with John and direct with Andy. So it's been really lovely. I executive produced on this one. I got my first executive producer credit because it was me and Bart that brought the story into Kingdom and Lionsgate. So I got a producer credit on this, which was cool. And then Andy and I did a little bit of uncredited editing because we're both big time editors. So John Puckett is the main editor, but Andy and I like edited a little bit behind the scenes. So that
Mm-hmm.
was really fun. All three of us worked really hard on the edit together. And then I composed the music and I helped produce the music with my good buddy Jeremy Redmond. Jeremy helped me a little bit on the score, and he also helped me produce the music. And he's just an amazing guy. So I had him as a co-pilot for the music. So this is typically how I work on movies. I work in a bunch of different verticals because I'm kind of a generalist. I'm like a Swiss Army knife. Like I can do a lot of things. Okay, so, but nothing. If you look at a Swiss Army knife, the tools on those is it. What makes it awesome is it's all in one, but their tools aren't super great. And so yeah, that's kind of how I view myself. So I work in a lot of different verticals to try to help get my vision across. And so having Jeremy with me on the music was great, and John Puckett did a great job editing, and Andy's an incredible editor too, and a great director. So yeah, filmmaking is such a collective team sport. It's such a tribal, a village thing. And I always sit through the credits at the end of the movie because if you look at those credits, there's like 1,000 names, on the credits when they go by. It takes a lot of people to make a movie,
Mm.
and I realized that implicitly. I how would you make a movie by yourself? So like I'm quick to thank everyone involved because we raised this thing as a tribe, and the crew was beautiful. The cast was incredible. I mean, it took a small army to make this thing, and so I played my roles, and everybody else played theirs, and we put this beautiful thing up that we all feel great about, and we'll see how everybody else feels about it on February 20th in the theaters.
I love this conversation, Brent. Thank you for taking some time with us on the Avail podcast to talk about this very important project, which I believe that all of us should go and support and spread the word about it. The movie is I Can Only Imagine 2. This is going to be something you're going to be so happy that you went to this movie and that you took people, invited people to go. Brent, on behalf of our Avail team, Dr. Sam Chand, Martijn Van Tilburg, everybody who works behind the scenes, we honor you, brother, and we ask the Lord to continue giving you wisdom and favor as you're kind of breaking some ground in an industry and in a time where it really is very, very significant and very, very important. You really are. You're doing something that's touching lives, and we're proud of you. We honor you, brother.
Man, thanks for having me out, and let's do it again on the next one.
That's right. Let's keep pumping these out every time a movie's going to come out.
I love it.
Proud of you, brother. Proud of you and your team, and
Thanks.
excited for this. Everybody, you got to watch it. I Can Only Imagine 2. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this episode of the AVAIL podcast. For more leadership resources, check us out at theartofleadership.com and make sure to claim your free trial subscription of the AVAIL Journal at availjournal.com. As always, I'm your AVAIL podcast host, Virgil Sierra. Muchas gracias. Thank you for connecting with us to learn the art of leadership here at the AVAIL podcast.